small little quiz to know more, and also to check how many of us are aware and how many of us are going to learn on the fly. Before we get started with tonight's edition of BizKnight, let me also just set some ground rules, the usual ones. If we can have all cell phones, devices, handheld devices on mute would be great. Full focus on the device on which you are viewing and listening to the session for today. We will be enabling recording. Yeah, this is so that we can share the session with others who have missed the session today or who would like to be made aware of the session in future. And we're also going to be hosting it on our YouTube channel. So watch out for the details towards the end of the session where we'll share some more details. Multitasking, please avoid as usual. Try to keep yourself focused and as much as possible and not get distracted by other pings and chats. Of course, it's difficult in today's world to not get distracted, but it'll be great if we have all eyes on screen and on our lovely faces. Okay. In case of any queries, use the Q&A section on Zoom. So you can start on Zoom. There is a chat section and a Q&A section. So please keep sending out, keeping yourself and the others engaged through chat. If you have any comments, if you find something exciting, interesting, or if you want to comment about any slide, and there are any specific questions that you have for the panelists, please place it in the Q&A section in Zoom. There are two separate sections, chat and Q&A. Okay. And wow, our numbers are slowly increasing. That's great. All right, and maybe another minute or so for yourself to get some snacks and drinks to stay hydrated. Yeah, it's the hot season, summer season in India. Very easy to lose sight of time, and therefore we may just get to have a sip of water or a drink. And of course, it's a Thursday evening. We want to ensure that we're also perked up for a Friday in a good mood tomorrow, right? So for that, it's important for you all to stay hydrated and have some nice sweetmeats in the evening to enjoy the talk better. Okay, so with that said, okay, yes, Bangalore, it is rainy, I'm sure. I'm based out of Pune right now. We are a mixed bag. We have audience coming in from all over. So in Pune, it's nice and hot, not nice, but hot. In Bangalore, it's nice and rainy. So perfect time for a cup of tea or coffee, as you like it. All right, yeah, so this was nice. Please keep yourselves and the others engaged through chat. Chats always help, and Q&A for any kind of questions. We will be taking questions primarily towards the end, although our speaker has planned for a small spot in the middle during the talk in vitro that or any kind of questions will be taken which are associated to the talk. But towards the end, we do have a section that talks about that is just dedicated to Q&A. Okay. And of course, you can reach out to me, Khushbu, on chat or in Q&A for any questions that you may have if you're facing issues in dialing in, listening, hearing, absolutely anything. With that, I'll stop share and also very quickly introduce you all to what we are doing and what we're here for. So as many of you are already aware, probably BizKnight Hyderabad is a platform to bring together BAs, PMs, and product managers for any kind of collaboration, experimentation, listening to each other's stories primarily, and techniques on how to be disruptive and get better in our day-to-day work. The essence is also to create a robust community, right? The essence is to give back, to take and learn, right, from each other. So as much as we would love our tea and coffee, we also love sharing stories. And going ahead with the tradition, today we have our speaker, Nag, who will be taking us through the topic, which is business innovation through product leadership. And we have seen a lot of changes recently in the business landscape across the board, across all industries. I'm sure each one of you have your own lovely stories to share and coming from diverse backgrounds. Product management in general as a discipline has undergone a lot of changes in the way we understand the market, how we have approached the role, how it fits into the system, and how it helps this whole product management space, helps in developing solutions for any kind of business problems and connecting business, tech, and design together. And of course, keeping customers at core, right? So now we'll be focusing on how product managers and product leadership can accelerate business innovation in new market conditions. I haven't spoken about Nag much because he loves to introduce himself. So I will definitely hand over to him to take over. But just before that, there's a small little quiz that I have prepared for all of you all. And it's very simple. You will just see a small little pop-up on your Zoom window. So you just need to, there are 4 options as usual. If you don't know the answer, just guess. And yeah, I'll be launching it right now. It will not take more than 10 seconds for just 5 questions. And let's see how much you know about BizKnight and today's talk. Questions are, which edition is today's BizKnight? 11, 12, 13, or 14? What was the theme of last BizKnight? Product thinking, digital transformation, analyst at core, life of a BA. Who is our speaker for today? Nag, Charles, Khushbu, Adarsh. What is the theme of today's BizKnight? User story mapping, business model canvas, business innovation, BA at ThoughtWorks. And how are you feeling right now? Excited, enthusiastic, happy, or joyful? All right, I have the privilege of seeing the questions being answered. Out of 29 of us who are in the call, let's see how many answers do we get. 50% have already participated. The remaining, I'm waiting for 100%. Come on, folks. I also want to see how many eyes are on the screen and are paying full attention to me, my talk, and my ground rules. That's also the intent of this quiz. I'm testing. All right, we're at 67% participation, and attendee list is also increasing by the minute. So is the participation percentage. With 70 plus, I'm going to count till 10 and end the poll, hoping for the remaining 20% who is left to vote or to answer the quiz, do that within those 10 seconds. So 10, wow, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, come on, 10% left to participate, just 10% more. Folks, there's a quiz on your Zoom screen with questions that might have popped up. Quickly answer it. I'm at the last 5 seconds. All right, last 10% to go. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.5. All right, 0. Okay, we're at almost 95% participation, which is great. Let me close the poll. Anyone taking a last stab at it? All right, seems like those who had to participate are done. And I'm going to end the poll. All right, so it looks like mixed bag of answers for the first question. Well, the answer is correct. Majority is correct. It is the 13th edition of BizKnight. Fantastic. The theme of last BizKnight. Okay, the answer is incorrect. Majority is on the wrong side. The answer was digital transformation by Professor, I hope I get the name right.
Pingali.
Yes, thank you. Yes, Dr. Srinivas, and very, very nice talk that took us through digital transformation, the difference between digitalization and digital transformation. And it's also a professor and teaches at prestigious institutes. And he was here last time. Who is our speaker for today? Fantastic. We have 96% in favor of Nag. There's a 4% audience thinking Adarsh is one of our speakers. Adarsh, this is for you. We want you to be speaking next. And yes, it is correct. The theme for today's BizKnight is about business innovation, how product management can help with business innovation. And fantastic, how are folks feeling right now? Excited and enthusiastic. Some folks are also happy. Oh, joyful. Okay, maybe that option didn't make sense. But glad to hear and see that folks are very excited and enthusiastic about today's talk. All right, with that said, I'll hand over to Nag. I will be checking in chat and Q&A for any outstanding questions that I will be handing over to Nag, our speaker, and also coming back on video towards the end of the talk, wherein we'll have some time for Q&A. With that, I'd like to hand over the dais to Nag. Over to you.
Thank you, Khushbu. I wish I can be as as exciting as you are in my speak. So my name is Naga. I go by Nag and Naga also. I come from Providence and I'm an executive director at Providence. I lead the program management team here and been a product leader for 15 plus years now. I've worked in the products, consumer products, commercial products. Prior to I joined Providence in March of 2021. Prior to Providence, I've been with Microsoft for 14 years. I worked in the product divisions of Windows, Office, and Dynamics, and worked on multiple products within that within those groups. My specialization is about how do we take the innovation aspect of the products and nurture them into features that products actually can come up with, right? So that's the reason when I was asked to talk about take up a topic, this is very close to my heart, and I see my role as a product leader very close to how do I enable business innovation. So in the talk I'm going to mention many aspects of business innovation. It's going to be like a story, so please be with me for some time. You would not miss the fun of some of the aspects of the history of innovation and how do we progress from there as a product manager. Can I sort of share the screen? I'm good with it, Kushbu? Okay, please let me know
Yes, please.
once you're able to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Also wanted to say warm welcome to BizKnight. Thank you so much for signing up for the talk. And we're very excited to have you on board. Thank you so much for giving in your time as well to us and to this audience. And all right, the audience is super excited. And like we said, extremely happy as well to be listening to this talk, and we can see your screen share. Go for it.
Thank you. Brief intro about Providence. Providence is a health services company. We've been in India for the past 2 years. And we're growing as a company and setting up multiple competencies here. One of them is program and product management, and so happy to be leading those teams here. I work for Admin Technologies, a group within Providence, and we develop experiences for all our employees within Providence. Okay, so moving forward, the talk is primarily going to be on 2 topics. One is I'm going to take you through the history of business innovation. When I talk about history, people might think like, oh, Naga is going to talk about like hundreds of years of history. But definitely I'm going to talk about what we are going through in the history today, starting from 1800s, the complete dimensional change in how we should look at innovation, right? With the post-COVID world, the change is tremendous, and I'm going to talk about that. And then I'll give a brief pause for some questions, and then talk about what's the role of a product manager in this journey, and how modern product management can impact the business and the change that happens in the business significantly. So if you can see the picture there, that's exactly what we do with innovation in a hilarious way. You don't have every resource at your control, but you still have to go solve your problem, right? And who better than product managers can know about how to go do that, right? So let's talk through that and we'll deep dive into it. So in prior to the Middle Ages, like hundreds of years back, the innovation cycle was decades, if not millennia to evolve, right? Because we were an agri-based society. We didn't have a lot of movement across the world. We didn't really have needs that really needed a lot of innovation in how we looked at the product and services, right? Post that, in somewhere around 1800s, the militarism across the world came up. People started moving across the globe and started trading as well as conquering different territories, right? So that resulted in rapid innovation in that sense, right? But it's not really rapid as we see today. The reason being, with conquests, people have to settle back, right? With the new structures, with the new governments and new hierarchies, it was hard for people to survive as well as start, thinking something new about their lives. So in somewhere around 1700 to mid 1800s, the Industrial Revolution came up, right? We started seeing the modern innovation era started evolving then, right? Cars, planes, machinery started coming in. The first 50 years of the industrial revolution, we saw rapid innovation in that sense that we started seeing machines come in. We started seeing, a number of core structures put into the core technologies put in. But towards the later part of the industrial revolution, we started seeing a dampening of innovation. The reasons will come to that, but it's that's how it moved. Around early 1900s, right, around 1908, General Motors happened to be the first modern corporation that came up, right? What happened in the structures of how the various companies worked is that earlier they were all family-based enterprises, right? And family-based enterprises put money into the enterprise, but also they had to evolve the products that they created. So it's a sort of double-edged sword that you need to take the risk of not only putting your money, but also trying to evolve your products. So that created a sort of conflict of interest in the family system, right, of enterprises. With General Motors and the Industrial Revolution, we started seeing that there's a new layer of professional management that has come in, right? Now, with that, what happens is that the professional management is sort of insulated from the people who are risking it by putting their money, right? So basically, you're taking the accountability of the shareholders from the management layer that's going to make decisions. So what happened was that the professional management layer was sort of, having a bigger canvas to go and start innovating on the products, right? That really put in a number of, advantages to how the innovation cycle has fast-tracked the game, right? So the financial management layer was different from the ones that were making decisions, right? So that's where you had the board, you had the founders, and then you had the CEO and the structures around the professional management layer that came up. But then I think after around World War II, we started seeing again a dampening of the innovation. I want you to follow the thought of a line of thought here, right? As people started getting more predictable income, getting comfortable, they knew where they're going to go with respect to their lives. They started seeing, their employment structures a lot more, robust. Then you started again seeing that the innovation across the world has started coming down, right? So their lives and careers were very evident to them, right? That's when public enterprise came in and a lot more, a lot more certainty came into their lives. The modern 20th century corporations, these large corporations that were formed, starting General Motors, started controlling the innovation in a much better way, right? They started seeing the risks that are accruing to their businesses and putting in more strategy around how to mitigate those risks and control the innovation through patenting and IP rights and trying to make sure that the certainty of their revenue is certain, right? And they weren't stupid, right? They were simply making so much money through the process of controlling the innovation. They didn't really see a reason to risk it all. It doesn't mean that innovation was completely off, right? Like, for example, if you remember Bell Labs, they invented the transistor, they invented programming languages. Xerox was there, which was inventing the mouse, the laser printer, and all of that. So there was innovation coming up, but it was very well controlled by the corporations. But that has completely changed coming into the 60s and 70s, right? The cycles of rapid innovation started coming in. And one of the key reasons for that was internet and globalization. When the possibilities across the globe grew of better products, better lifestyle, better, ability to, get what certain economies were getting until then suddenly, the markets, the market started growing up and innovation cycles have started shortening, right? So product development, the art of creating great products now no longer relied on, some geniuses coming up and creating products. On the contrary, products were created out of lots of iterations, right? The speed, they created excellence through the process of iteration and started becoming better at it, right? But what happened between 70s and 90s is that while the internet and the ability to release the products have become faster, the processes within the companies were really not really up to the mark in terms of how you can quickly do that, right? Certain companies were doing it better, some were really struggling because the processes were still those of the early industrial revolution, and those companies were struggling because of blockages in the processes within the companies, right? And the structures, the organizational structures were not lean and mean, and then this is causing a lot of issues. I remember the days when I was working at Microsoft, very early on in my Microsoft career. There were so many ideas that were brewing up in the bottom layer of the organization, but then the decision making was so pyramid in nature that ideas had to be literally funneled up into the management chain, and management chain was looking at it from the same risk-taking, risk mitigation mechanisms that I talked about, that many of these ideas were just countered with saying, hey, we don't want to take that risk and we don't want to evolve our products that rapidly. And then that caused a lot of friction between what bottom layers of the organization was doing and what the top layers of the organization was doing, right? So that caused a lot of struggle. And then that started changing, right? And the concept in into 2010 and 2019 was the decade of fail fast, right? What happened is that the structures in the organization have started flattening up. So the institutional structures that were there in the starting of the century was started actually dismantling into a lot more flatter structures in the organization. There's a more maker culture that has come in, right? A maker culture is about everybody trying to start creating something through innovation and disruption, right? And mostly in new ventures. Large corporations too had different groups or different teams which were startups within those large corporations, right? So the maker culture has come in, and that was a need of the hour because there was really a need to explode into the market, and then these organizations were struggling. I remember, and I'll talk more about my experiences through that. And then those implementing technologies, right? Those who have embraced technologies have started controlling and power to change industries, right? In a very short period of time. They were doing it with loosely coupled confederation structures, not necessarily very large consortiums, tightly coupled with lot of contracts, but really coming together and working strategically. So strategic partnerships were created with these loosely affiliated structures, right? Uber, for instance, has fundamentally changed the entire transportation market in cities and even beyond cities. Airbnb has done that. I just brought in a couple of Indian examples, right? Swiggy is of the world, or Make My Trip. These are the examples where technology has enabled these companies to actually go and fundamentally change certain industries. And power has shifted back to the consumers because now you have a huge market and there were no oligarchs trying to control everything, right? You had a plethora of options and opportunities for the consumers to go and look at it. So marketing no longer wins as a primary one. Of course, marketing is critical for taking the message to the customers on what you are offering, but marketing is not the the starting point. The products speak to themselves, and consumers have a lot more choices, right? And some of the examples that you will see here, like Amazon, for example, right? It provides a marketplace for e-retail that helps anyone selling products to be able to list themselves, and the product does well by virtue of its own merits. Then the company benefits from it. Myntra, Zomato's, Oyos of the world have seen benefits by shifting the power back to the consumers, giving them the right opportunity to find the right products, right? So that's in the process, you're failing fast, you're actually learning and quickly evolving yourself, and that's the decade of fail fast. I'll speak from my experience, and between these years I was at Microsoft and really doing product management across various levels as I grew in the company. We really saw a culture shift in the organization, and not really something that was just on paper, but the real change that we saw. Microsoft of the last 2010 to 2019 decade was the IBM of the 90s, right? The IBM of 90s really changed its whole business model from being a infrastructure, hardware, traditional software company to a services company. Similarly, Microsoft has changed tremendously in its offerings in the decade of 2010 to 2019. And I can speak from my experience that the culture of innovation was really groomed at all levels in the company, right? Hackathons were very prevalent both at the company level and at individual teams level, right? Software engineering teams were given agile labs because cloud was a technology was growing so rapidly. Then you're given agile labs where you can go and just spin off infrastructure for prototyping and bringing out something to life very quickly. Makers lab for rapid prototyping. You had 3D printers. You had a number of chips and VLSI components you can assemble together, put together very quickly in prototyping hardware as well as software products very quickly. What was a waterfallish method of execution where we are looking at into first requirements by marketing, then product managers come and write down their requirements, then designs come in, then you go through iterations of it to get to the best design, and then you go to development, and was condensed together to integrated experience reviews, right? Where the triad of product manager, dev, and design teams came together and put together an experience very quickly, collaborating and reviewing it with leadership in a fast track way. So your products, which were taking features, which were taking 2 years of time or 3 years time to evolve into into the product, would take 6 months or at the most a quarter, right? So, and that's really a powerful way of getting things moving faster. Rapid experimentation, we had a huge experiment platform across the company where we really helped us put newer products into the market. Even for the products that we already have, like Windows and Office, which are huge and already doing well, we could experiment faster on newer features for those products. And growth mindset was something that we actually installed into the culture of the organization, where we actually looked at how do we learn from each of these experiments and be able to react to the market faster and not really penalize the employees for experimenting with new ideas. And that's the concept of bringing ideas to execution faster. And rapid increase in customer listening channels, in product channels, feedback from the support systems, from our partners, from our developer community, really having a huge telemetry database where we used to think about, get these signals, the data, and then be able to use data science and insights to prioritize what we need to go build, right? All of that was happening together. across huge number of products for $100 billion company. Just imagine the scale of innovation that was going on in various aspects, be it of our products that were there, our sales processes, our support processes, all of them were evolving at the same time. So the era of 2010 to 2019 was this huge fundamental shift in the industry to start, and I would say industry because the tech industry kind of follows and maybe leads many times, sorry, not follows, it leads the other industries with structures that other industries take up, maybe a decade later or something like that. So that was the experience that I had at Microsoft. It was really changing my thought process, right? My career till then and then later was complete 360-degree shift, I would say, 180-degree shift to what was there earlier. But then 2020 to 2022 occurred, right? The post-pandemic era. The word that's used, the acronym that's used for this era is VUCA, right? Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous word, which means the change that we saw in a decade is on steroids now, which means that the cycle times have really collapsed now. And every industry, and we know this, and by our own intuition, our own learning, we know this, that in the last 2 years, the logistic industries, the pharma industries, the manufacturing industries, the travel industry, you name it, every industry went through fundamental changes, right? The way of delivery of products and services, the way of creation of products and services, all changed at a rapid pace. And all these industries had to adopt technologies. Some were really lagging in certain technologies earlier, and they were just really looking at risks of taking those technologies, have now just jumped into the waters and started using these technologies, right? AI, robotics, IoT, SaaS products is like the SaaS technologies are ubiquitous today, right? Employees who were just rushing to large campuses with hundreds and thousands of employees at one place have switched to hybrid workspaces, and we know how the macro factors like lockdowns and others have impacted us really in our work, and hybrid workspaces is the order of the day, right? Near real-time delivery. Tomorrow you have a lockdown, you need some products. How do you get it today? Right? Tomorrow you have some changes happening, you're seeing a wave coming in. How do you start reacting to your business needs right away, right? How your logistics had to be planned, how your sales processes have to be planned. It's a real-time delivery aspect. And all of us, especially in the product world, have experienced this, right? Team over individual heroics, right? We have to come together. No single brain can solve the problem. It's team that solves the problem, right? And rapid innovation I talked about has to be the order of the day to compete. And these technologies are helping us to innovate faster. And the focus is put your antennas up, start learning from the various aspects of the market and your competitors, and start really learning faster from that. So I moved to the healthcare industry during this time, and that the industry that went through the most stress during this time was the healthcare industry. And this is an industry that traditionally was very conservative with respect to use of technology, because of course it's life-saving industry and you have to be really conservative in how you evolve. But even this industry is now going through rapid innovation, right? So from my experience at Providence, right, in this industry, I can tell you that Providence as a company and the healthcare industry as an industry have started using data science extensively. Like it's everywhere, right? Be it trying to see how do we optimize the footfalls into hospitals, how do you create how do you reduce the time taken for a patient to get cured, how do you increase the capacity of nurses and doctors into the hospital, how do we move our consulting workforces, our caregivers, as we call it in our company, which is our employees, our frontline workers across, and then optimally use them for serving our customers or the patients, right? And and how do we build these, supply chains very fast, because, supply chains of pharmacy and supplies are very critical for what we are going through today in the pandemic world, right? So all of that required us to really look at our data and then start analyzing this data in a much faster way, and then leveraging our SaaS products over in-house products. The industry itself was very, I would say, averse to going to cloud because of, all the regulations around, data protection laws and other stuff in the healthcare industry, HIPAA compliance and others. But then the technologies in the previous decade helped to bring in those compliances, and we were able to leverage the SaaS products much effectively for, let's say, at least in the short term value, quickly, get our value out and not really waste time or spend a lot of time for shorter time value solutions, right? And then evolve our long-term solutions with in-house products and others, right? So and then mobile first experiences. Now you would know that at healthcare, many, you would have seen it, you would put your cell phone out and, do all your work in hospitals. You would see that many doctors used to do that. But in a world which is, you're seeing so much of churn, mobile phone is now everywhere, right? So we used to have a conversation, and I was not part of it, but I've heard about it, is that why mobile experience at some point? Now the question is, why not? Right. So everybody is talking, why not a mobile experience first, right? So it's ubiquitous, mobile experiences, and online learning as a primary learning channel. I'll just tell you how difficult it is for those of you who worked in the tech industry, and I came from the tech industry. You would see a computer or a laptop or a phone, and you could completely make sense of the technology. But think about a nurse, think about a doctor. Their primary role is not to be playing with technology, right? For them, an online learning is a big deal, right? So, but even in this scenario, the healthcare industry evolved, and online learning channels have grown. So it tells us that human resilience, and when you put a problem at humans, we really, turn around as a species, right? So that could be evident here. And more importantly, how type of employees we recruited, right? In this world of constant change that we're seeing today, high ESI is very important, right? You need emotional and social intelligence in your employees. The reason being, you should be able to relate to see, we had employees who had dramatic times during the COVID, right? Many of their family members were impacted, their friends were impacted, they were having mental health issues. And that is true with our customers too. They were going through a lot of change in their lives, right? Fundamentally. So to create products for them, or to think about a persona of your employee, of your customer, it's no more that you just, hey, there's a seller, he has these needs, he needs to call customers, so this is where it is. But you need to see them as fundamental as a person, right? And what they might be going through, right? Their whole emotional, state is very important for you to understand, to create a product and experience that helps them to really helps them as a person, right? So we need to have employees who can start thinking in those lines, right? Having social intelligence, what's going on in the society and how do I relate to that, right? And not just emotional intelligence as in like, one-to-one interaction or, something like that. So these are those fundamental shifts that happen, and the whole innovation process is going through these changes for us, right? At Providence, we've seen this happening. And we're going through that change as we speak, right? So I just want to pause here, but we started from how the innovation, went up, the cycle of innovation, and how it just came down during the mid 1900s, And then again, it started getting into a geometric progression, or, at a very high pace until 2019. And now it's out of the roof in terms of how fast you can go and how fast businesses are evolving. And then in the next section, I would like to connect to what's the role of a product manager in this whole process, and how we need to think about our role as a product manager, whoever, or product manager or aspiring product managers who work with product managers. How do you start thinking about product management in this rapid era of innovation, especially in the post-pandemic world? I'll wait a minute. If you have any questions, I'll take them. Okay.
If folks, any questions that anyone would like to ask, please use the Q&A section. If not, then we'll quickly move forward. Yeah, just in the interest of time, now maybe we can resolve.
We'll move forward, and then probably we can pause at the end. So, role of a product manager, right? What do you do as a product manager, right? In this rapidly innovating world, what is your role, right? Product management, to me, is risk mitigation for the organization. When I say risk mitigation, it's business risk mitigation. Now, how do you mitigate business risks, right? You create products and services that enable you to bring in more revenue, reduce your chance of failure as a business, right? And in the process, this is within the process of business, within a process that drives business innovation. What I mean by that is that the product manager is in a well-positioned role that takes business innovation, the ideas that come in the form of innovation, the process of innovation, and put it into a plan for execution. That's what the product manager does. And then we iterate on it. We get idea after idea, we put it into the process of execution, we get better at it, and then at the end of the day, you have so many resources, you get to the optimal state that you want to be in. That's what the product management does, right? And I talked about how the iteration cycles of innovation have come down. Cycle time has come down significantly. So let's look at it. What do they do, right? They work with design, technology, and technical teams, design teams, and business I talked about, and they're right in the middle of it. So they work with all three of these functions or roles or whatever called. Each company has its own definition of them, and then they start working on creating, envisioning and creating a product, right? Now, think about when you look at this picture, you see a composer or compiler, a music compiler, right? Now, in software terms, a compiler is a software that takes high-level programming language instructions and convert that into binary code language that a processor can understand and execute, right? A compiler in a musical, fashion is somebody who writes those notes for these musicians, and then they all execute them, and magic happens and music comes out, right? Think of PMs or product managers, I will call them as PMs going forward. They plan and execute ideas, right? They're not necessarily the creators of ideas. They probably get ideas from various channels. They take them and execute those ideas, right? And execution is difficult. We all know idea is easy, right? There are people who sit in a chai shop and talk about how to run the government, right? So ideas are easy. They give ideas out to fly, but really executing the ideas are the toughest job that product managers have a privilege of doing, right? So sometimes you don't get ideas, and that's very common for product managers, right? We don't have ideas. Then what do? You do talk to your customers and talk to your channels, and then get more ideas coming in. And really, your products are actually manifestation of some of the insights you draw, and the insights that you draw could come from an idea. An idea in itself is an insight. Your feedback that you get from your customers is an insight. Your competitors, what they do, how are they moving, are insights. Your company goals are your insights. The vision that your company has is an insight. The data you collect from user experience research, talking to your customers, is an insight. And the data that you collect in your products and how the customers are using it is an insight. All these insights are leading you to create the products, right? Or evolve your products. And the PM mostly defines the what by by querying the why of why you need a particular thing to be created. If you're delving too much into the how, probably you're an engineer, you need to relook at yourself, right? But if you're really staying in the problem space, the what and whys, you are mostly in the PM space, right? So they are not necessarily the idea people spoke about it earlier. And everybody thinks of product managers as this monolithic role that does just take the requirements, create features, run them into production, right? But really, the product management as a discipline is a huge set of capabilities that you need to have, and you evolve into those capabilities. So from product management to product leadership, there is this whole wide spectrum of things that you do. So on the y-axis, if you see the technical, more into the weeds kind of work, to the business where you are actually making money, and from the strategic to the tactical, from the course of the span of the work that you do, there are a whole bunch of things that you do as a product manager, right? And I want to draw the distinction of product leaders to product managers. The product leaders mostly stay in the business strategic area of work, right? They're the one who are solving problems like, what's the pricing strategy of our products? What's the business plan? How do you differentiate these products from others? What is the positioning in the market? What type of market problems we need to go solve? What are these problems that we need to, what are the right problems that we need to go solve? They are solving those issues. The product managers are those who are actually, trying to build up the tactical as well as, both business as well as technical problems that they go solve for the company, right? You see on the technical side, you're doing a number of things like release roadmaps, launch plans, things like that. On the technical strategic side of things, slightly long gestation, you're looking at the entire product roadmap, the competitive research that you do, building requirements, epics, user scenario stories, and all that stuff. And on the tactical business side of things, you're trying to use funnel analysis, retention, acquisition of customers. How do we make a little bit more? How do you do conversions better? What's your marketing plan? Things like that. So I just want to draw your attention, because this is a whole big area that you deal with, and you have to deal with all of these processes in the innovative world of which is on steroids. Just imagine the amount of changes that you need to make in your organization. And in doing so, you work with multiple teams, right? You work with your internal teams, R&D, sales, marketing, operations, and then you work with a bunch of external users, right? External teams like users, huge user bases that you may have, third-party partners, competitors. Sometimes, competitors work with each other. The Googles and Microsoft used to work on cybersecurity together, right? So you work with your competitors too in the business world, bloggers, tech community, and others. So what makes great PMs, right? Just like the picture here, right? They are multifaceted, right? They have inspiring narratives, right? They're about the possibilities of their products, and then from where the product should go and the best path to get there, right? That's what they do. And they build consensus by default, but still yet can drive hard decisions sometimes, right? They fine tune the product strategy, right? How do they do that? To maximize the business impact, right? And they write well. Most product managers, interviews that we take, we look at people who can speak and write well, because they need to communicate the product, and they are the ultimate facilitators, right? They seek out insights about customer needs, pain points, They say what they'll do, for example, and they do what they say. Their say-do ratio is pretty high, and that's why they execute impeccably, right? And great PMs also track the metrics that matter. They have extremely high data fluency. They always talk numbers and be able to communicate through data, right? That is why you see this where you see there's the complexity in the work that they do. Now, in the context of this, I just want to give you some of the operational tips and that you can take in this rapidly innovative world, right? And how you can operate faster as a PM. So first tip that I have is identify the problems you can go solve. When I say that, it sounds cliche, right? But think about it, right? You need to really be in the problem space, talking to your customers often, and be able to be very close to your customers. Don't be a solution looking for a problem. I see many PMs come with an idea and a solution and say, hey, you know what, this solution can be applied to that problem, so I want to solve this. They don't really think about, is there a real problem that we go find a solution to? Well, vis-a-vis, we have a solution, how do I find a problem to solve, right? Be in the problem space, be comfortable being in this problem space. In an ambiguous world where you have to make decisions with partial information, but again, avoid dead ends by iterating through it faster. So identify what problems you can solve. Take an idea and get to execution quickly. I said the maker mindset that I spoke about, you really need to go fast in your execution. Do not just analyze, paralyze the problem, but really go and take that idea and start getting into execution quickly. There are three things that a great PM has. They know their strength, they know their team strength, they know the environment that they're operating and the strength of the environment. So they are able to take an idea and see, is this the idea that I can really make it happen quickly, right? So they know the strengths and they understand how to go about executing it faster. The third one is about really having your goals set up, the KPIs set up, and iterate until you meet them, right? Forming hypothesis is really critical, right? And validating or refuting that hypothesis is what you test and learn mentally when you do that, right? For new products, net new products, validation is the way you actually use to be able to test your hypothesis. In market products, experimentation. I spoke about how we used experimentation in Microsoft when we evolved our products, which were like cash cows for us for many years. And experimentation is a way to do that for in-product markets, right? Fourth, communicate and persuade with factual arguments. I use the word factual with an emphasis because you're not in marketing. I've seen many PMs trying to, in sales, not marketing. Many PMs go just sell their ideas to their teams without factual data behind it, right? So please be clear that you have to work with data. You have to be factual but persuasive in your arguments, right? Show your work often. Communicate your work often, and make sure that everybody in the team has ownership to what they have to do. It's not one man's show anymore. I spoke about that. So be collaborative and work with your teams. And the last one is work effectively. You be a referee and a player at the same time, right? I don't know how many of you actually see American football. There is a role called quarterback in American football. You can see it on the internet if you haven't. That's a glue between the forward team as well as the other players. They are the ones who throw the ball to the right people at the right time so you can go do a touchdown, right? Similarly, you have to be a quarterback as a product manager to be able to do just the right conflict management and get everybody onto the same page. You are representing the customer as a referee, but you are also a team player trying to go and execute on the product. So all those 5 tips that I have, I will sum it up in 3 things that you want to remember. 1, you as a product manager, you create the process and methodologies, right, to answer the questions or the problems that you want to solve while mitigating the risks of the company or the product that you're working in. and do it as fast as you can. Second, you are the one who creates focus and clarity, right? That's your role as a product manager, to create the focus and clarity so that what we are doing now and what we can do long term is your job. Third, you are the one who creates the speed, the heartbeat, to be able to quickly release versions of the work that you're doing and get the feedback from the customers, iterate on it. And if you can, there's a saying that in the industry that if you can, be 100% faster than your competitors, there is sorry, if you're twice the speed of your competitors, there's a 100% likelihood that you will beat your competitor. So you are the one who creates the speed. Keep these three in your mind as a product manager. Keep the 5 tips that I have given you in the previous slides in your kitty, so that you can move faster as a product manager in this rapidly innovating world. So I thank you. That's the last slide I had, and I look forward to any questions that you may have or the feedback you may have in this regard.
Hey, sure, Nag. Thank you so much for this wonderful talk. It was definitely very inspiring. Also, the journey, your journey, as well as the industry's journey put together was really nice and very inspirational to learn from. I know we've almost run out of time, but just in the interest of the folks who are still on the call, and before we drop, there are a few questions posted. And if you would like to stick around for the answers, please do, if we can extend by 10 minutes. Okay, so the first question, Nag, is could you please throw some light on how the growth mindset is powering the business innovation, if I heard it right? Thank you.
Right. So I spoke about growth mindset as a way to think about, learning through the process of failing fast, right? So there's a concept of knower versus learner mindset. So if you are constantly in a learner mindset, right, you and are learning from your failures and from your customers and being able to do so, then you have a growth mindset. So the opposite of growth mindset is fixed mindset, right? So if you are a fixed mindset, I know it all kind of a mindset, then you will not be able to evolve your products faster. So your business actually suffers because of that. And we have seen in n number of examples in the industry across multiple industries that the knower mindset, I know it all, and I have been doing it for many years, have collapsed businesses for for good, right? So growth mindset is like the primary ingredient or the catalyst of change that many companies have started taking up. There is a book on growth mindset. You can find it on the internet. Please go read it.
Cool. Thank you so much, Nag. There's another one, which is by Ashok. How do you see US healthcare industry evolving to contain high costs of care and still delivering care outcomes?
Oh yeah, so it's a problem that the healthcare industry is going through, really hard, because through COVID, they have seen some fundamental shifts in their business. A lot of surgeries that people had to go through, they had to postpone. A lot of other health related, illness related aspects that they were constantly keeping a check. They had to move on, and there's a lot of revenue problems that the industry is going through. And as they do that, their costs are also going up, because with COVID you've seen a surge in terms of the type of checks and balances you need to have at hospitals, at acute care facilities or ambulatory care facilities that are there. So the industry is really going through a lot of pains in containing the costs of care. There is some temporary relief from governments coming in, but that's not sufficient to be able to do it. So again, that's where the cost reduction through optimizing our processes, employing the best technologies to reduce the burden on our frontline workers through technology enablement is the way forward, and the industry is doing that right now.
Cool. Thank you so much. There's one last question before we call it a wrap by Bharani. Do we need to take a different? Yes.
Folks, before you drop off, can you please fill the feedback link as well? We have just shared it in the chat screen. Yeah, Vishnu.
All right. Thanks, Srikanth. So Bharani, do we need to take a different approach to develop a B2B product for a closed set of users as against a B2C product? Nag?
Yeah, that was the era where, you know, we used to have B2B products being developed very differently, because, you know, you're talking about, you know, a closed set of companies or users coming together. There's no real need for thinking about it like a end consumer. But if you really see, a lot of products are converging. What were B2B products at some point earlier were now have to open up for end consumers too. For example, let's take WhatsApp. WhatsApp was a consumer product. WhatsApp for Business is a commercial product. Skype was a consumer product. Skype for Business is a commercial product. So there are a whole bunch of products that were earlier just B2B are now moving to consumer basis much faster. Now the fundamentals remain the same, right? You need to be more customer pain focused, you needs focused, and you really look at technology. What were different were two things. One is the consumer grade user experiences versus a commercial grade UX, which was more productivity based versus, you know, more a consumer friendly user experience. That was one difference. The other difference was on the compliance aspects, right? Whether it all the non-functional stuff that we talk about were different, right? More focus on accessibility on one side, less and whatever, right? So, and there were a whole bunch of changes on the non-functional side of things or the compliance side of things. But that gap is narrowing down. Even in consumer products, we see a lot of focus on compliance, be it data compliance, security, privacy, and there's a lot of focus by governments through regulations that and the user experiences. When you use mobile phones, right, you don't really make a distinction whether you're using an app in an app store that is that's your company supported app or a publicly available app. You want consumer grade UX to be available to you, right? Because that's how the new generation is thinking. All the apps should have similar experience. Why should it be different? And the technologies have evolved, right? Like now you can put together experiences at low cost and really be able to converge fast, while the platforms that are creating these technologies are taking care of commercial needs of compliance and others, right? So I see that it's important for us to think that they will converge faster, and you're really bringing in a consumer mindset to a commercial product is not going to be taking you very far off from where you would go in future, right? So just think through all the consumer technologies and and try to see if you can bring those into the commercial way. Of course, when you do that, you are sticking to the policies of the company and things like that. So just be aware of it. But there's no harm in looking at commercial and consumer technologies with that same eyes, and that will bring in more convergence as we go along. Does it answer your question? Hopefully. Yeah. There's most companies want to venture into.
Khushbu, you are on mute. I think you're speaking.
Yes, thank you, Antush. Bharani, I'll allow you to talk just to see if your question was answered.
Yes, it does. Thanks, Nag. Thanks for the beautiful explanation. Thank you.
That's fantastic. All right, folks, there's one last question, but before we take that up, I think, Nag, if you're okay to extend by another couple minutes to answer one last question, is that okay?
I'm good with it. That's a good question. What all factors need to be considered to determine the market attractiveness of a product? Nowadays, most companies want to venture into completely new product space, which is
right. Now, just before you proceed with the answer, folks, I do know we run out of time and you'd like to also log off to move on to other responsibilities. But before you do, there is a link on the chat channel for your precious feedback. So it won't take more than 30 seconds or a minute max. Please do click on the link, fill up the feedback form. This will help us get better and better at the next edition of BizKnight. Please do fill that in before you drop off. It will really help us improve ourselves. We take feedback as a gift. So I am sure that you would love to gift us all with your precious feedback. Please do that. And with that said, Nag, we'll move to the last question of the day. What all factors do you consider to determine the market attractiveness of a product? Nowadays, most companies want to venture into completely new product space, which is different from their core product.
Yeah, I think, I think this I've encountered many times in my career, right? Folks, so when I worked at IBM many years back, we were moving from the traditional mainframe systems to Linux-based systems, and the mainframe operating system teams and all the product teams used to say, hey, why are we moving from a product that had 30% revenue for the company to a product that's just coming up, right? At Microsoft, I've seen this multiple times that happens, right? It really is about being competitive for the future, right? We have to put that cap on, and especially if you're in the product management space, you need to put that cap on and see what's the company trying to do with respect to diversification and modernization of their business, right? It's not just about building new product and getting into quickly into, and every company, I mean, any company that sort of has a business strategy to it would know that just venturing into a space where it doesn't have a competitive advantage or first mover advantage or something is risky for their business. But certain decisions are made with respect to the user base that they have and what's happening to that and how it would evolve into future, right? So I would want you to go back and think about what are the incentives that the company is or what are the factors that the company is considering when they are doing it, right? So is there a competitive aspect, market or advantage aspect to it? Is it a market expansion opportunity that they're looking for? Is it fundamentally a problem with the current product set not being able to be relevant for the future? What's happening in the technology landscape that's deciding these factors, right? And how it's going on with the financials of the company. You have to see it multi-quarters to see what's going on. And you have to also look at what's the customer mindset that's shifting. So these are some of the dimensions in which you can actually look at that same question and answer for yourself if it really makes sense or not. And evolve based on that. So those are some of the factors that I can kind of throw at you and see if it makes sense to you.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. Thank you so much, Nag. That is the last question of the day. We're also almost 15 minutes over time, but well spent as we took Q&A. And a lot of positive feedback for you as well, Nag, around the talk on chat. As you can see, it's bubbling with words like insightful and also thanking. We're very thankful to you for the time that you've taken. The experiential session was really nice because you had your own personal experience to share. And coverage was good, excellent, because of the various products and industries that you've covered. Good for both novice and experienced product managers. Wonderful session and a lot of wisdom sharing, as we can see in the chat. So it's bubbling with all the positive messages. With that, I'd also request the audience, before you all drop off, I do see folks slowly trickling out. And I can understand it's a Thursday evening. I'm already on Friday. So yeah, please do take a minute of your time more to fill in the feedback form. Yeah, superb session. Thank you. Thank you for that feedback coming in on chat. That's great. Please do fill in the feedback form before you drop off. Also, very soon, we'll be receiving an email thanking you for your participation, your attendance, and also with a link to our YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is a very popular place of ours where we host all our previous talks and sessions. So if you missed out the previous 12 editions, you can find all previous talk recordings there. Very soon, the recording of this talk will also be hosted on the same YouTube channel that you can further circulate with friends and family. And yeah, Adarsh has already posted the link to our YouTube channel, the hotspot on chat. Do check it out. But before that, feedback form, right? We'll keep the call open for another 2 minutes for folks to fill in the feedback form. And if you all would like to chat with Nag, we can promote you to allow you to speak. We can have a quick chatty session. If anyone would like to talk, please raise your hand. If you'd like to talk directly with Nag right now, like this, just click on the raise hand icon, raise your hand, and we'd know so that we can allow you to speak. Another minute or two, the call is open for talking with Nag or for filling the feedback form. We still have a few folks on the call. Request you to give us your feedback so we can get better. With that, I'd like to thank you, Nag, for taking our time for us and speaking at BizKnight hosted by Hyderabad. We'll definitely hope to keep seeing more of you and your talks in future as well. Thank you so much for joining us. Also to all the attendees, the panelists, and all my background team who's been working great and who's been doing a great job in the background to make all of this happen. And yeah, thank you so much to all my co-hosts as well. Thank you, everyone. I hope everyone enjoyed and wish everyone a good evening. With that, I'd like to sign off on behalf of Team BizKnight. Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening. Bye, everyone.